is Dan, welcome to Novanaut, and today I'm going to be talking about Solo, the latest film in the quickly expanding Star Wars universe. This is a film that's been under a lot of scrutiny months before it even hit the screens, purely because of the amount of drama that went on behind the scenes. As if it wasn't risky enough trying to make an origin about one of the most beloved Star Wars characters and replacing one of the most beloved actors in the world with somebody completely different, the production was riddled with all kinds of problems and things going on, including most notably the directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller being fired and replaced by Ron Howard. Well, I say fired. Dismissed. But now it's out into the open air, so the only real question is, was it any good? Yeah. So I'm gonna spend the first 5 minutes of this video talking about the film without spoilers, and then I'm going to move into a spoiler section, but that will be clearly marked. I say 5 minutes, I'll probably talk either really fast because I'm nervous just doing stuff like this anyway, or I'll just go on and on for about 20 minutes. Either way, you're here now, so keep watching. Yay. Walking into Solo with all the production drama going on in the back of my head, and with fresh off of what for me was a disappointment in the form of The Last Jedi, I was pleasantly surprised and thrilled with Solo. It was a fun, exhilarating space adventure that wasn't bogged down in any of the kind of problems I expected from it, and it made me genuinely feel like a child watching Star Wars again. Alan Ehrenreich is fantastic as Han. He doesn't try and impersonate Harrison Ford, but he has the same swagger and the same charm that we expect from Solo, and he pulls it off really well. Seeing him with Chewbacca again was fantastic, and Chewie has some really great scene-stealing moments in this film. I thought the little ensemble of new characters was incredibly interesting. Beckett and Kira in particular were the ones I was most interested in. I kept thinking back to Rogue One's characters, and even though the spotlight is definitely on some characters more than others and some are left behind, I feel like they definitely had a lot more going on than the ones in Rogue One. I was particularly impressed with Emilia Clarke's performance in this film. Outside of Game of Thrones, my only exposure to her was Terminator Genisys, which was, yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. I fucking hate that film. She had good chemistry with Ehrenreich as Han, and I felt like she had a pretty interesting development throughout the film. Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss was also a really interesting villain. In the little script that I wrote for this review, it's corrected villain to Vision, which is a pretty cool coincidence. I liked him as a villain and liked the bad guys, in particular in this film, because it wasn't another Empire versus Rebel story, which is pretty much what the last 3 films have been. I'm going to get some flack for this, but I feel like this film actually tried to do a little bit more with the Star Wars formula, unlike The Last Jedi, which many claim to be this massive, groundbreaking, mold-breaking film, which for me it wasn't. It was just the same big, massive Empire versus small, plucky rebels. Anyway, Donald Glover was absolutely fantastic as Lando, but come on, we all knew that before we even sat down. I mean, Lando's the system.
Lando's not a system, he's a man.
Lando's the man. Was that a reference to the original trilogy? That seems like the perfect segue into all the references to the original trilogy in this film. This film had plenty of references and fan service moments, but I felt they were slightly more subtle and natural and not as forced as they were in Rogue One. I'll expand on that some more in the spoiler section, but I was pretty happy with the way they did it, especially some kind of musical references which were interesting. Hey, music? But this film has music. That seems like another perfect segue. Yeah, the music was fine, it was atmospheric and it fit the moments that it was meant to fit. I can't say there's any tracks or moments in particular that stood out to me except for when they reused tracks from the original trilogy. Visually it's a really beautiful looking film. It fits in perfectly with the original trilogy and with Rogue One. It feels a little more real to me and less glossy than the sequel trilogy, but I felt the same about Rogue One. I think that's just the kind of 70s aesthetic that I really like. There was one effect during the Kessel Run sequence which I was not a fan of at all, and I'm sure on subsequent rewatches I'll probably find more problems with it, but based on this first reaction I really enjoyed the film. I'd say overall it was great. There were some moments that were quite predictable, particularly when we already know the outcome of some things which have been mentioned in the original trilogy. The film was very, very fast paced, and sometimes it was a bit too fast paced. It didn't leave time for things to settle in. I can understand why people wouldn't like this film. The plot is a little paint by numbers at time and it's not going to be shattering any kind of revolutionary new writing style, but for me, for the most part, it was a very fun, exciting ride, and it really reminded me of why I fell in love with this franchise in the first place. Okay, that's kind of it for non-spoilers. I'm going to move into some spoiler stuff now, so if you've not seen the film, get out. Unless you want it spoiled, in which case, get in. Do what you want. It's a free world. Okay, spoiler time, baby. So, based on the Legends material, if you've read that, there was clearly some influence in this film. I'm glad that they kept the Imperial Academy stuff in particular. That was really cool to see on screen. As I said, some lines in the original trilogy.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Your ship? Hey, remember, you lost her to me fair and square.
Meant that I could pretty clearly foresee what was going to happen, but it was still kind of nice to see it adapted on the big screen. Back to all those references, there was some really subtle stuff that I liked. One thing I really liked was seeing returning alien species, which I felt were absent in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. We see a Rhodian at one point in this film, and Two Tubes, the dude from Rogue One. I really liked that Beckett's disguise clothes at one point in the film were the same ones that Lando used in Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace. Music-wise, like I said, there was nice little callbacks there. They have a really upbeat version of the Imperial March playing as an advert for the Imperial Academy. During the Kessel Run sequence, we hear the kind of Imperial sting music that was used in the very first film. When Beckett is shooting at the TIE fighters, it's the same music used in A New Hope for that sequence with Luke and Han. And then as Han is navigating the Kessel Run, it is the same music as the asteroid field sequence from Empire Strikes Back. We also hear the Duel of Fates music briefly, but I'll come back to that. While we're talking about Kessel, I just want to say that the CGI effect I was talking about in non-spoilers that I didn't like was the big squid monster. I didn't quite think that was needed. It was a bit dumb. Star Wars has this recent history of trying to do giant space monsters and it's just not really working. The CGI is just not up to scratch, so drop it. Some of Solo's backstory was a bit forced and wasn't particularly needed. There's a sequence where we learn why he's called Solo. I don't know why that couldn't just have been his name. There's a bit where we see him say, "Oh, Chewbacca, that's a long name, I'll have to shorten it." So there's a scene in this film explaining why he shortened his name to Chewie. I just wanted to add, I really liked Beckett and Kira, particularly at the end when they're all double-crossing each other and there's loads of twists and turns and stuff. I don't know why I did that. But that was interesting. I liked the way it kept me guessing whose allegiances were with who, and I liked that Kira turned out to just be pretty much a bad guy who was only in it for power and money. And that's it. Nothing else happened in that last scene of any interest. That was it. Oh yeah, actually there was also Darth Frickin' Maul. Fricking, of course, being his first name. Darth Frickin' Maul. I mean, it would still be a better first name than Sheev. That was an absolutely fantastic surprise. I was not expecting that at all. I thought maybe like Jabba or Boba Fett might show up in this film, but I never would have guessed Maul. That was a brilliant way of reintroducing him back into the film universe, but I expect there's going to be a lot of very confused people if they haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels. That was where the Duel of Fates music came in. That was really nice. I thought that was a great touch. And yeah, that was just a really clever twist. Another thing I didn't particularly like was that Beckett's wife and Rio, the alien dude with the multiple arms, died pretty early on in the film, which was fine, but Beckett seemed broken up about this for all of about 10 seconds and it's never mentioned further on the film, doesn't seem to have an impact on him at all. I think that's just a consequence of the film having this breakneck pace, which I mentioned earlier. It helps it have that exhilarating space adventure feel, but it just needed a couple of moments just to slow down and just let some emotion kind of settle in. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. The fact that most of the complaints I had to talk about in the spoiler section just shows how they could be considered nitpicks. There are general problems such as the pace and some of the character work, which is a bit of a problem, but after Rogue One's character work, this was a massive step up. The fact that I went into this with really low expectations may also have led to that. I need to see it again. I'll say that for sure, and my opinion might change, but just based on a first viewing, I was absolutely blown away. It was so much fun. I loved seeing Han and Chewie in the younger days. Alden Ehrenreich did a fantastic job. But most importantly, it reignited my love for Star Wars and reminded me why I love it. And after a few months just kind of stepping away from Star Wars after The Last Jedi and just trying to avoid all of that drama, I kind of feel home again.
Chewie, we're home.
That was really cringy. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know how you felt about Solo in the comments. I'm really interested to see how this one goes because it's had so much negative press before it's come out, and so far most of the fan reaction I've seen has been very positive, even though the critics have been a bit eh. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, please leave a comment below and let me know. Be sure to like this video and subscribe. I've got a sale of this thing. It's contractually obligated in the YouTube thing. It's not, but you know, I'd appreciate it. I don't know how to end videos. They're really awkward. I'll just say bye, and then we'll cut to an outro. Bye.